Tonight on Let It Rip, the president taking the border issue into his own hands. Major asylum restrictions, at least while U.S. officials say the border is overwhelmed. And those trying to cross illegally could face a 5-year ban from entering the U.S. or prosecution. It's seen as a major political liability, so problem solved, right? Well, one former Republican presidential candidate says not so fast. We're diving into that, but first. Hands off our students! Wayne State students and staff outraged after a pro-Palestinian encampment is dismantled by police in riot gear. The school said it hampered their ability to run the university. But our panel is debating the line between civil disobedience, hate speech, and chaos. It all starts right now. So it's time now to Let It Rip with Arab American news publisher Osama Siblani and Zionist Organization of America Michigan chapter board member Aaron Tobin. Fox 2 anchor and attorney Charlie Langton with us as well. Let's get into this and talk about these encampments. And many of you may be watching saying, wait a minute, which encampments? They've all been taken down. The one at Wayne State University that comes into question is the one that we're talking about because the way in which it was dismantled. They brought the police in, they dismantled and said enough is enough. And they didn't have the same elements of upheaval or necessarily anti-Semitic signs at that particular one, but yet they were still told you have to take this down. Aaron, is that going too far? Should the police have and the university allow them to continue their peaceful protest?
So it wasn't peaceful. It was very confrontational, and they were illegally encamping. The camps were illegal. The American people believe in the freedom of speech and to protest when something is wrong, but you just can't protest anywhere you want. You can't make an illegal encampment and expect the university to respect your boundaries of an illegal encampment. The people that just defaced Goodman-Acker law, the firm Goodman-Acker in Southfield, Michigan, and wrote horrible things because they said because Acker is Jewish and he is a regent for University of Michigan. It was totally illegal. And Acker himself said, if you want to walk up and down the street.
We got to separate this because on one hand you have a terrible crime that no one should defend of someone defacing a law firm, writing awful things on it, parts of them more awful. And then you're talking about a separate issue. Wayne State University students saying, hey, I have a right to organize here, the right for peaceful protest. Why do you say it wasn't peaceful?
Ackerman said,
but not the Acker thing, the Wayne State thing. Why was that not peaceful to you?
Because of their signage from the river to the sea, free Palestine. That's talking about genocide of the Jewish people. They want me dead. They want my cousins in Israel dead. That itself is violence and hate speech.
But they're making the argument that Israel is causing the genocide in Gaza.
There is no genocide in Gaza.
But the 34,000 deaths there, they're saying 36,000.
Okay, now you said that number before, and I corrected you. It's more like 12 to 14,000. The United Nations came out and said that Hamas has been fabricating these numbers. They cannot match the deaths with people. It is 100%.
I've never read it. I didn't read it anywhere that the United Nations
Hamas
said that.
runs Gaza. Everything that comes out of Gaza, news-wise, is Hamas.
Okay, let's give Osama a chance to respond to that. First of all, the 36,000 number has been widely reported by government agencies, not just the UN, but the United States government.
The UN refuted it.
But the United States government has reported.
did not refute the numbers.
So what is instead of getting into the numbers game, let's get back to Wayne State here at home.
Yeah.
Should that protest have been dismantled? Osama Siblani. Why?
Because freedom of speech is not something that's given. It is our right. It's what makes us a free country. People have the right to express their opinion. There was no intimidation. There were no crimes committed. People were demonstrating, expressing their views. They're very angry about what's happening there, and they're making it very clear to the administration. They want to meet with the administration. They wanted to sit down with the administration, talk about things, and they were supposed to be meeting with the administration. It started on the 23rd of May, and on the 29th, they threw them out, and they brought in the police, and they used force to remove them. So, and some of them were beaten, some of them were taken to jail. So I don't understand what is the problem in here. People have the right to express themselves.
So, Charlie, let's bring the lawyer into the fold here. People have a right to protest. No one's arguing that. The question that Aaron Tobin is bringing up is where. There are such things as legal and illegal encampments. Break that down for us in terms of these universities.
So people have a right to protest. There's no question about it. But your right to protest is not absolute. And the university has a right to limit where and how you protest and when. You time, place, and manner restrictions, not content. If they don't like the message, like Free Palestine, you can't do that. But you can say you can only limit from 9 to 5. You can set some limits. Now, I've been to that encampment in Wayne State at U of M, and I went to Acker's office. I went to all of them. So here's the deal. When I saw at Wayne State, I saw they were in an enclosed area. They did not have any fires. They were not blocking roads. They were not excessively noisy. They were not doing, in my opinion, anything that would appear to be disruptive. So I don't know what rule Wayne State used to get rid of them. I would question it. And what's the message anyway? If they're not harming anybody and they're being peaceful, I'd let them go. Now, U of M, I understand they were making fires. They may have been blocking entrances and exits, that type of thing. That's a problem. So again, that's the law. Law's pretty clear on this.
So there's a right and a wrong way. Let's say
the one that
morally
really
a right and
started
a
the
wrong way
violence
to do this.
The one that started the violence is the administration, not the students.
Well,
the
administration
called the police, and the police walked in, and they start dismantling the encampments in a violent way. So they did not really, the students did not do anything. I have students that work for me, for the newspaper, that they were there, and they were not doing anything wrong.
They were warned. They were asked to leave peacefully, nicely. They were told you cannot have encampments here. They were warned to leave.
No, they were
actually police warned them. I know one of the policemen that was there.
But where's the harm, though? How is Wayne State
Every single campus where there has been an encampment like this has escalated into violence. Are you going to wait till people get violent?
Well, hold on, that's not
the officers.
I understand.
Aaron,
I understand that you want to shut them up, but that's not the way to do it.
Let's be right with the facts here.
I don't want to shut them up.
Yeah, you want to shut them up.
No, I don't.
People like you want to shut them up.
Respect
that's what it is.
the law, and
because you don't like what they're saying.
Osama and Aaron, I'd like to point something out. Michigan State University had a large-scale demonstration. They asked for one thing, for the Michigan State faculty and administration to recognize what they're asking for. The Michigan State president showed up the first day, and because of that, they had a peaceful resolution. Shouldn't other universities also do the same thing? Don't they deserve to be heard, Aaron? Even if you don't agree with them, do they deserve to be heard?
The students at University of Michigan, which they believe came to Ackerman's office and defaced his office.
Oh, come on.
They have never attended a regents meeting. The students at Michigan, the University of Michigan, I know this for sure.
Do you know who did it?
They have not come.
But do you know who
I'm talking about the University of Michigan students. Have not approached the regents. They have not come to the university to make their demands.
I want to make this clear. I'm talking about Michigan State University in East Lansing. They had a similar protest that they had at Wayne State, and they asked for one thing. We want to see the Michigan State president. The Michigan State president shows up, hears them speak, they dismantle. What's wrong with that?
Nothing. If
that's the right way to do it, right?
That would have been fine.
So they were supposed to meet the president. They were supposed to meet the president of Wayne State. The next day, they brought him the police.
I'm not sure the Wayne State, the presidents have to meet with the protesters. If they don't want to do that, then that's their right as well. The issue here is what is a legitimate, legal protest? And I think we've seen a couple of examples. The protesters cannot endanger themselves or others, and that's really it. Other than that, I think they can protest. And you know what? As a practical matter, this is an issue that is very prominent, is very important. Let the protesters protest, as long as they don't disrupt classes, don't disrupt graduation, don't set fires, those type of things.
And also don't intimidate Jewish students. That's
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Anybody who is, we are protesting against danger. We're protesting against killing and violence. So anyone who is protesting and creating violence, that should be condemned. But people have the right to protest.
But I think the Jewish students should set up an encampment too. What's wrong with that? They've got a view. Let them set up an encampment too. Nothing wrong with that.
I want to ask Aaron the question: the difference between protesting against Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu and how he's handled this, and being anti-Semitic. Do you see a difference between the two? Can you see a clear mark between I don't like Netanyahu Netanyahu and the way they're handling this, and I'm anti-Semitic. Aren't they two separate groups?
So Netanyahu is the head of a government. He's not doing this willy-nilly. He has a cabinet. He has many political parties. It's a different type of government. There's like a dozen parties that make up the Israeli government. He can't act on his own. Everything must be approved by the government. So it's not Netanyahu.
He is a criminal, and he will be arrested and put in jail.
When these students are saying in the Ivy League colleges that a tenured professor cannot go to his building and teach because he's Jewish, that is
Can you criticize? Can you criticize Israel?
Can I say something?
Just one moment. Can you criticize Israel without being anti-Semitic? Yes or no?
Okay. Yes, but that's not what's happening.
Can I say something?
Osama, go ahead.
Please, let me say. First of all, I criticize Israel all the time. And I think Benjamin Netanyahu is a criminal. My best friends are Jewish. We work together. We work in community together. We work in community between the Jewish community and the Arab community together. So that has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. The one who is really saying that criticizing Israel is being anti-Semitic are people like him. And that should not be allowed. You can criticize Israel. You can criticize Iran. Doesn't mean that you're criticizing Muslims. You can call Saudi Arabia, whatever you want.
Do you agree with that, Aaron?
And then we don't say anti-Muslim. We're not saying Islamophobia.
And he says he's working in the Jewish community.
You invite him over to your house.
I have never seen him in the Jewish community.
What do you mean?
I haven't seen him helping in the Jewish community.
Invite me and show me. Invite me. Let me go.
It's a very nice fairy tale.
Last question. We have 30 seconds left, Aaron. Some of these faculty members who supported the students are asking for a couple things. They're saying, make sure we don't press charges against protesters. Let's make sure there's no academic sanctions. Do you believe that that should be allowed?
No. I think the protesters that are here on foreign visas, that are breaking the law, illegal encampments, telling Jews where they can go and where they can't go, should be deported immediately.
Osama,
anyone that broke the law should be in jail.
15 seconds left. Osama, what do you think about that?
I don't think that we should ruin people's lives because they protested against Israel.
Osama.
That's what's happening in here. And I think that we should protect our students and we should protect our rights. First Amendment.
It's an important discussion and one that hits so close to home here. So I want to thank you both for joining us. Aaron Tobin, thank you as always.
But tell them to invite me to a Jewish community in our.
We're going to do.
You're not coming.
We're going to see about this. Maybe. I always say, a Jew, a Muslim, a Christian, and a Hindu. Let's break bread right here on the table. And let's make this work.
I'm up for that.
President Biden makes a move he hopes will solve not only the problem at the border, but a political problem for him in the November election. It comes after Republicans in Congress killed a bill to address the issue. Our Let It Rip panel debating if it'll work. That's next. Back now, Let It Rip debating if President Biden's border executive order will actually solve what's seen as a political liability headed into the election. I'm joined now by former Democratic State Representative Sherry Gay Dignago and former Republican gubernatorial and former presidential candidate Perry Johnson, and Charlie Langton with us as well. And so it is the Sherry and Perry show. We just happen to be watching. Wow. So this is it. Okay, let's get right into this, the border crisis. Sherry Gay Dignago, you've been on the show before talking about this border crisis.
Absolutely.
Here we are, and we said over and over again that this President Biden, needs to do more. And all the Republicans at the table said, why doesn't he pass an executive order and take care of this problem? He just did. Was it enough?
Well, you're right. We're talking about the same issue. And the governor of Texas was getting ready to pack up cars and buses and drive immigrants to Washington. That's what he said anyway. And so the pressure was on their law enforcement at the border. 300,000 encounters at the border, December 2023. That's a lot. The president's hands has been tied, though, because the Republican Party has weaponized the ability to move forward with a bipartisan bill. We could have solved this problem together, but instead, the Donald has influenced his 9 Senate members to hold back and not allow the president to move forward and ensure that we have a comprehensive legislation to address the border crisis. Just stopping and capping at 2,500, it's something, but it's really not going to address the issues with making sure that we have adequate law enforcement, judicial presence, social workers. It's not enough. It's a Band-Aid, but it's a Band-Aid because the issue has been weaponized.
But is it a Band-Aid that's just too late? And does the timing bring a bit of suspicion in your mind? If this was a Republican who was in office, who didn't have a solution for the border, tried to propose 2 bills with his Democrats, didn't work, was told to use executive action, didn't do it, and then 5 weeks before a debate with your opponent, you decide, to put the executive order in. Is that a little suspect to you?
Well, I won't use the word suspect, but certainly we know that that's an issue that's been polling for quite a while against Biden, and he had to do something. I don't think that was the route he wanted to go, but at this point, the numbers are really showing that he had to take action. Albeit late, he took action. Ideally, again, I think the preference was in passing legislation, bipartisan legislation, but we see that in Washington, we see that in Michigan. Everybody's holding their powder, keeping their powder dry until after the election in November.
And they're holding on to issues that matter to people at home, and they're politicizing it and building their base and their power around it. Perry Johnson, twice the Republicans said, we're not passing this bill because Donald Trump called and said, don't pass that bill. Is that awful in your mind? Is that just a terrible thing?
Look at the reason they didn't pass the bill. They passed the bill and then they attach all these caveats with the bill. So today, if you want to have a pool table, you have to agree to give 70 televisions, a Rolls Royce, and 5 other vehicles away for one guy to get a pool table. It's not like you pass a bill and all that's on it is that one bill.
But there were two bipartisan bills, Perry. The first one you're talking about had that extra stuff on it. The second one that was demanded, the GOP said, you got to clean up your bill. They came back with a second bill. The media, even MSNBC, said this bill is going to pass, but Perry, it didn't. And they're saying the reason is because Donald Trump called and said, this is an issue I want to win the election on. Do not resolve it before it's time. Do you believe that there's some truth to that?
Well, I do know one thing. I do know that the border is the #1 issue facing us, and nobody can deny the fact that under Biden, we had a record number of illegals entering this country. I want everybody to understand, he set a world record for illegals entering this country, and right now we have 7.5 million illegals in the United States. That means 1 out of every 44 people in this country is an illegal immigrant, and that soared because of Biden. Now, granted, he realizes this is disastrous. In fact, I think I let him rip the other time. Even the Democrats thought this was really ridiculous.
No one is saying that the border...
But he didn't answer the question.
And the question is, do you think that Donald Trump used his power as the presumptive nominee to stand up and say, don't pass the bill? And do you think that's okay for somebody to do?
Actually, the reason he didn't pass, the reason he didn't want the bill passed,
the second bill,
is that he still wanted a stronger bill. This bill that he had right now, the pass, he could easily have an executive order, as Trump did, right? Executive order: no illegals are allowed to enter our...
Perry, it sounds like you have your own
I'm not sure the problem is being solved. I understand this
game at best.
Yeah, but Sherry, I understand this problem is Bill. I said we're talking about people who are claiming asylum, and he's going to eliminate people who are claiming asylum. These are people that are fleeing their countries because of some persecution or whatever. I think what we really need is to vet these people out. Listen, everyone on this table agrees. If you come into this country legally through the process, great. And the problem is that we're having way too many people coming into the country illegally. So what do? Give them a hearing. If they think they can have a reason and present a reason to a judge and have the due process that we all enjoy, and if they can come into the country that way, wonderful. But that's not the problem. So limitations, I think it's a bad bill in general.
Well, Biden's executive action doesn't include a path to legalization. This particular order doesn't include that. Well, Sherry, is that a shame?
Well, no, because I think and I have to say again, Perry did not answer the question. I want to make that crystal clear. The issue is, no, you didn't answer the question, because the question was, did Donald Trump use his influence over the 9 senators? And the answer is yes, Perry. I'll help you out.
Anytime Biden says anything,
you're still talking about Biden. The question was
Trump is the leader of the Republican Party.
But did he manipulate the GOP's decision not to pass the bill by using his own power? Yes or no?
I do believe that Donald Trump did not want that bill passed.
So
that's
he
not
did
the
everything in his power. But that's
back
okay.
Anytime,
you would have to be a moron to think that anytime President Biden suggests something, he's not exerting his influence. You'd be a moron to think anytime that Trump says something, he's not exerting influence. And to even think that because of the strength of and their position in the party, that is not exerting influence, of course it is.
So let's have Sherry answer the question that I asked. This President Biden, the executive action does not include a path to legalization. how is that even helpful in solving this problem?
So again, like you said, we're 5 weeks out from the debate. The issue is still pressing. He's capped the asylum at 2,500, but there's a mechanism that is in place that provides for if someone feels their life is in danger. So there is a mechanism in place that still will address. But to Charlie's point, the legislation would have provided adequate resources and funding to have the people there to even hear the cases. Right now, it's taking some of the asylum cases 5 to 6 years. So are we really? Do we really have a system in place to address political asylum? I say no.
Is that Biden's problem, though?
I think it's all of our problems, and so that's why the bipartisan package should have been passed. And to your point, I don't think every time the president says something, he's trying to have a nefarious level of influence. Yes, he's influential.
Wait.
But Donald Trump
did not have nefarious influence. You asked if he had influence. Yes, he does.
That wasn't the question.
Here's the deal. Sometimes by not answering the question, you answer the question. The question that I asked was whether or not Donald Trump used his influence to try to manipulate the GOP's decision not to pass the Democrat bipartisan bill to solve the border crisis. But here's the deal. We're going to agree to disagree on that. Moving forward, Trump and Biden have two very different ideas about how this should be solved. Trump has actually said that in some cases, the people who are crossing the border are not even people. He went on to say that the things that he was doing before, using U.S. military to go into neighborhoods, his suggestion to go into the country with military, put millions of people out of their homes, break up some families, put them in detention camps. Do you think in this country that's the right way to do it, Perry?
Well, I don't know about going into people's homes. You've talked going into another country?
No, coming to America to break up those immigrants that have come here, those migrants that have come here, and breaking up families, putting them in detention camps.
The illegals?
The illegals. Is that something that you think should be done?
I'm going to ask you this. Do you think that it's fair that somebody who is illegal entering our country has an advantage over somebody who's trying to become a citizen, going through all the procedures?
I don't, but I do want to ask you the question.
Are we going to reward them by letting them stay in the country?
If Donald Trump becomes the president of the United States again, we have to know whether or not this president is going to use his power to break up families who are sitting inside of homes and put them in detention camps. If you were his advisor, would you suggest that is a good way to solve this problem?
Well, I think he's going to have to use, and I'm sure he will, use some discretion as to what he's going to do. But I know one thing, he can't have an incentive program whereby when somebody enters the country illegally, they now have an advantage over somebody who's trying to enter legally.
Sherry, you agree with that? I mean, people who are coming here illegally shouldn't have an advantage over those who are struggling and trying their best to make
I agree that they should not have an advantage, but we have to have a more humanitarian approach. And while President Biden's approach is not perfect, certainly it pales in comparison to putting someone in a concentration camp. I mean, that's unacceptable. That's not human.
Charlie, how much does this help, Charlie? How much does this help President Biden by coming out 5 weeks for a debate?
I actually don't think it does.
No?
I think it's a little too late, really. I think watch the debates. I think Trump is going to basically it was Trump's plan years ago, and so I think that if Biden adopting something that Trump would have proposed years ago, I don't think it's going to hurt. I don't think it's going to help Biden.
And we're going to go to break here, but keep in mind the ACLU, by the way, opposes both President Biden's executive order and former President Trump's way, and they got involved in so much that they pushed President Trump's notions away. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all wraps up here. And when we wrap things up, we'll be back with final thoughts, and Charlie is taking Let It Rip on the road.
How big a problem is this immigration for our country?
It's almost insoluble.
It's just like African Americans. How important were we to America? Very important.
Do you think too many bad people are coming into the country now?
From a law enforcement perspective, we hope not.
We right now are taking care of a lot of people that are not producing.
The president says too many people are coming in, so he wants to limit asylum. Is that a good policy?
I don't think so, but I think we have to find a way to encourage people to use the right way to get into this country, but at the same time, it has to be efficient.
When you hear about these, not gangs, but hordes of people who are trying to cross the border, and in some cases can't even be stopped, what are you going to do? You can't take armed guards and keep them out.
We'll start at the beginning of time that were immigrants. So are we going to stop it or are we going to regulate it? I think we're probably going to regulate it.
We call it Let It Rip, but tonight we're calling it the Sherry and Perry Show. I want to give the final thoughts of these two. We'll begin with Sherry.
You know, President Biden has his work cut out for him. I don't know that the executive order is going to produce the outcome that he desires, but certainly we do believe that his approach is more humanitarian-centered.
Perry.
Let's face it, ask the question, was the border better under Biden or better under Trump? And I don't think there's any question Trump did a better job of handling the border, and I think he'll do a better job when he gets reelected.
The both of you answered some tough questions and got into it, and we appreciate you both taking on this tough topic today. Perry Johnson, Sherry Gay-Degnago, thank you very much. Charlie, always good to see you. All right, that does it for this edition of Let It Rip.
The Let It Rip discussion continues online. Sound off on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, or fox2detroit.com.